Well, because we're now in our second year, aren't we? Now we are in
It's true. Well into it.
Well into the second year of Jack of all Grades, which I think as we go forward, Corrigan, which inexorably we shall, we're going to get more and more the opportunity to see how stuff that we started off getting worried about in the early days of JOAG is maturing. You know what I mean?
Coming to fruition.
Exactly. Some of those little baby worries that we had in the first couple of months are now, maturing almost.
Our big grown-up worries and full-on anxieties.
Yes, giving us the opportunity to kind of check in on our little fear babies, and see how they've grown and see, if anything's changed. Have they got better? Have they left? Have they died? Are they not worth being afraid of anymore? Or are they altogether closer and more mature and nastier and more of a present threat?
Sure.
Than a distant kind of worry, long-term the reason I say this, long-term listeners will know that I've always been massively enamored with the power of AI to deceive us and mislead us.
Enamored is a strange choice of word for that, but sure.
Yeah, and it's a considered choice of word. I mean it. I love watching that tech go off in directions that nobody was really ready for. Which doesn't at all bode well for what may come in the next kind of 5, 10, 15 odd years of AI developing. But for now, we spoke about machine learning spitting out faces of mutant strangers, yes? People who are completely photorealistic apart from the fucking flesh lump mutant lurking in the corner of the frame, their one-eyed friend.
It's always so horrifying.
Horrible. And that tech is now within the hands of each of us. It feels like since we last recorded, it feels as though online machine learning photo generating apps have, for whatever reason, become massively popular.
And which is weird because I know that probably like 3 or 4 weeks ago, Steve, who joined us on our last episode from Dead and Lovely, he had been doing these like AI generated art things. And he was the only person that I had seen putting these things up. And then, like you said, in the past week or two, since we last recorded, all of a sudden I cannot open my Twitter without seeing AI generated.
It's because they're wonderful.
To use it loosely.
That's my first challenge of the episode is the loose thing here. Right. You get one of two. It feels like one of two outcomes when you use one of these. And just for the uninitiated, how you use them is you bang in you literally write a sentence into a text input box. The machine goes, has a little think, consults the entirety of human fucking visual knowledge that it has available to it, and goes, maybe you mean this. And it tries to build you a fucking image based on the string of text that you've entered.
Right.
And it either gets it uncomfortably close, right? To what you typed in, like kind of, oh fuck, like is that what that would look like? It feels as though it tries to imagine the context of words. Obviously that's me imprinting on it, but it feels as though that's what it's doing. And if it doesn't get it weirdly right, it'll in many other cases
so disturbingly wrong.
It will just at the drop of a hat generate Dali-esque, Geiger-esque melting fucking landscapes of half kind of realized images melting into one another. And if
so many nubbins, there's just nubbins of body and like everything, little flesh, tiny weird flesh,
dicks. Obviously me being what I am, instantly I start to bang in. Just I try and break it, right? I'll try and break it with a few things. And if you'll permit me, I'm going to send you a few.
I don't feel like permission is really being asked for here. I think it's going to happen one way or another.
Hey, if you tell me, Mark, don't send me that text, I won't.
I do not consent to this. No, go ahead. Let's do this. This is what this show is. This
exactly
is what we do here. All right.
Some of the terms I won't go into. I know.
Come on. This is where we're starting.
What I'd love you to do is to try and guess what the text term that I asked it to produce for me was. What did I request for it to spit that fucking mess out?
So what I'm looking at here is what looks like, in Doctor Who, in the I think the Eccleston ones, when there's that like stretched out.
Oh, you're talking about the Lady Cassandra, aren't you?
Yes. Because
she was just
like a stretched
gauze skin on a frame. Yeah.
With something of a face in between, almost maybe 2 to 3 faces in it, but there's centrally what looks like maybe like a nose and a mouth and a growth.
Well,
and
maybe
a lot of hair.
We'll call this one a practice run, right? Just to give you an idea. Yeah, I love it. So I could look at it for days. I asked it for a human face covered in hair. That's what I asked it for.
Oh, well, and
what is that if not
face part? See, this is fascinating because clearly what has happened here is it did a human face covered in hair, where as a human, I would interpret that as like someone with a beard or a mustache, and how the AI clearly interpreted this was let's stretch out a human face and coat that human face.
Exactly. And when it misinterprets what you're asking for, the results are incredible.
Oh no, I accidentally zoomed in.
No. See, on the human face theme, right? I asked it for a human face covered in stitches. It misinterpreted the stitches as wool, or thread. Yeah.
Oh, this is Mark. How mad is that? Like a year. I can't remember if this was before we started the podcast or like shortly into the podcast, but about a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
I had said to you that I had like a weird dream where both of us were in it, and there was like a thread that was like stitched through my arm that I was trying to pull out, and then you were like, "Oh, that's gross," but then you had one too, and we were trying to figure out how to pull these like threads out of ourselves. Does
it look like that?
I mean, not as busy. This one is like, you said a human face with stitches?
I said a human face covered in stitches. That was my exact request.
So what we have here, and we will post all of these on our blog and on Twitter and all of that kind of stuff. But what we have here is like, again, just amorphous blobs of flesh. And then there's some teeth in it, and some teeth that look almost like baleen, or like they've somehow become one with the yarn. There's several layers of these.
There's something Aphex Twin, something Chris Cunningham about them. Totally. They're very fucking just some of warped.
This looks like they actually did stitches, like surgical stitches. There's little black areas that are maybe like stitches. Some of it looks almost tattooy, but then the rest of it is
here's another one.
Yarn weaving throughout this thing.
And that's human skin covered in blisters. It's interpreted blisters as tiny little penises, because this one's just full of dicks, it's just cracked.
By the way, Mark, you have to let me describe them. You can't interrupt it. We have to explain it to the listeners. You're so excited to show me the next one that you're this like, anyway.
A Dickscape.
A Dickscape? Is that what you just called it?
Yeah.
It is a Dickscape. It's horrifying. It looks like little like mini penises, like little like cocktail peens.
Exactly that.
And but some of the blisters are wieners. Like kind of bloody-ish looking. Correct. And then there seems to be like some random nails in here, and then like this calloused layer.
Do you see you can see why I like it, can't you?
Yeah, no, I absolutely can.
And even when completely, even when you aren't trying to be abstract, right? When you're giving it specific things to try and simulate and think of for you.
Sure.
Here we go. You might have an outside chance of guessing what I typed in for this. Okay. All right, so take a look at this. Right. What do you think I asked for?
A piano made of bones.
That is exactly what I typed.
It's a piano made of, it's kind of inverted, but yeah.
Exactly what it's given me, a piano made of bones. And you can go even more specific. So I'm not going to ask you to guess, but when I tell you what this is supposed to be, you'll go, oh, okay. I asked the machine to show me Harold Shipman sat alone at a McDonald's. And goddamn, that isn't what I've got.
It is, but in a very terrifying alternate universe, because
it's as though there's been some kind of dream recording tech happening. Some kind of implant has picked up this little, synaptic misfire in my head during REM sleep, and this is how it's translated it on a screen. But that's what it is. You maybe squint a little bit. What's exciting me about this, right?
Okay.
Is not only the quality of the images that it returns with, and I forget loosely define it as art. That is art, 100%. Those skinscapes, that Dickscape there, I would frame that if I lived alone.
Yeah, I don't feel like Laura would have you put that up. I'm just gonna. I don't really know the woman, but I'm gonna say not gonna match her decor.
I'll just print it above the TV.
Mark's Dickscapes.
But as always, this is one that I'll be checking back on in another year or so, because I have absolutely no doubt that within the next 6 months, a year, 18 months, these images are going to be photographic.
It's going to look exactly like the thing you placed into it.
Yep.
Because that's what we're doing, right? Like every time you've done this, you've been training this AI, and the bajillions of people who have been putting these phrases into it to try to generate something are just training it and training it and training
it. Completely. And, like I've said all along, AI and the more specifically, the power of machine learning to, like I said, to deceive and to mislead, with tools like this literally in everyone's hands, when this becomes in no time at all, photographic quality interpretations of any kind of bullshit which you would care to spew out, that's when things are starting to get really fun really quickly, when everybody can just deceive on this scale, on this quality, just at the drop of a hat. Things are about to get really fun, I think.
Yeah, I love that for us.